Hello friend, this is Ryan Hicks of talktoprofit.com. Today I want to talk to you about something that's going to sound controversial, but please hear me out on this. Are you going to be a useless eater or a valuable producer? You know, there's some language among the elites today of calling common people useless eaters because as a net contribution to the world, they just consume. Now, people can get frustrated or mad about that or whatever and talk about those people. And it's not all people who are what would be called elite, because there's many people who would be called elite that are actually working for the good of humanity. Probably much more so than there are those working against people and just out there like a movie villain trying to do evil in the world. But this mentality is something that, of course, it sounds pompous, like they're just looking at people and looking down on them and they're so pompous. But the reality is a lot of times these people are looking on a macro level of what's going on in the world. And a lot of people are consuming. That's all they do is consume. As far as productivity goes, very little goes into it. They're mainly a net loss for the world. They've consumed more than they've produced. They have taken more, and they're not really doing anything of value in the world. Now, this isn't to denigrate those people or anything like that. A lot of it is taught, and it just keeps getting re-expressed in the world. And then they have kids, and they teach them to do the same thing, and it's an endless cycle. Sometimes people break out of that, of course, but it's pretty rare. It's why you see decades of poverty in families, and it just keeps going on and on. It's not because they're dumb. Some may be dumb, but there's some that are intelligent, but they just keep going in the same cycles. Why is that? It's not because they're dumb. It's not because they couldn't figure it out. There's something else going on there. But you need to look at your life, and while these people, you may get mad about the terminology of useless eater, it's kind of a harsh wake-up call. Because do you want to live a life where the only thing you do is consume? And at the end of your life, you have done less with your life than if you hadn't existed at all. That your life actually is a net loss for the world. Now, it's a harsh way of looking at things. I get that. And this isn't an attack on anybody for wherever they are. It doesn't matter what position you're in life. It's not about that. But do you want to wake up? Do you want to be somebody who's productive and adding value to the world? Now, this is not so you can be looked at as useful in the eyes of the elite. Nothing about that at all. It's about yourself. You have to look at yourself in the mirror each day. Do you want to be that person who's just living a carbon copy of their parents' life? Doing the same things they did, parenting the same way they did, thinking the same way they did, living the same impoverished life, doing the same mediocre things that they saw their parents do? Or do you want to be someone who is carving out your own trail, who is doing unique things in an intelligent way? Do you want to be somebody who at the end of your life can say, look at all this stuff I did. Look at all the achievements I had. All the people whose lives were bettered because of me. Or do you want to say, hey, I watched thousands of movies over the years. I played hundreds of video games. I went to sporting events and concerts and did all this consumer mentality. I got fat and overweight. Just all these things that is what most people are actually experiencing. Now, I don't think they set out for that. Nobody would set out to do those things, to be mediocre, to just do what everybody else does. But you get in ruts. That's one of the reasons why I chose this topic for this video, because it is harsh. The idea of these people calling individuals useless eaters is pretty rough. But that could be something that would wake someone up. To have it really just put out there like that bluntly, that boldly, and maybe it might make someone wake up. Someone who otherwise is going to continue on in this cycle of doing what their parents did or grandparents did or uncles or relatives or whatever, their culture they grew up in, and never breaking that cycle of mediocrity. And as I said, it's not about what anyone else thinks about you. It doesn't matter what some so-called elite thinks about you or what they call you or anything like that. Doesn't matter. You have to look at yourself in the mirror. You have to know before God that you did the best you could with what you were given. As we see in the parable of talents, you can bury your talent and do nothing, not have it bring forth a harvest, bring forth results, or you can be like the wise servants who did something with their talent, who invested it and got more back out of it. You couldn't call those people useless eaters, but that one with the one talent who just went and buried it in fear and did nothing with their lives, that's the definition of useless eater. Because he didn't generate any profit, any revenue, any abundance from that which he could have got, while he was still being a consumer, consuming and consuming, while generating nothing with the talent he had. I know I want to get at the end of my life, when I stand before God, know that I was a faithful servant, know that I did well, know that I blessed people and I taught people and I helped people get better and become better and live better lives to the glory of God. I don't want to know that I sat around and played video games and watched movies and wasted my life away, this valuable, precious gift of life, doing all the traditional common things that people do that truly define being a useless eater. Now, I wouldn't call anyone that because everybody has intrinsic value under God, being created in His image and likeness, but many people are living to that low standard. They've held themselves to the lowest of low standards. They're not accomplishing anything. They have no perception of even attempting to accomplish anything. And at the rate things are going, they're going to be a net negative for the world, creating new net negatives for the world and their offspring. Just consuming and consuming and consuming and not producing. Now, I don't care what you produce. I don't care how little value it is. If you can do something to add some value to make your life here lived better for other people, and yourself, of course, and your family, of course, that goes without saying, but other people as well, not just you only focused on yourself and your family, but producing and adding value to the world and creating and doing more good in the world and never being weary in well-doing. My friend, if you'll take up that approach, in that positive high vibrational state, following Philippians 4:8 and following 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5, casting out all those old vain imaginations, those things that rise up against the knowledge of God, and you start being valuable and being a producer, being active in your life, not just passive in it, but doing things, creating, inventing, thinking, producing, my friend, you're going to have a great life. And very important to note, you're going to help other people have a better life. You know, all the inventions and all the things that we experience and are blessed by wouldn't have came if other people were just sitting around doing nothing. Wouldn't have came if they were just sitting around enjoying the products of other people's work, the products of other people's production. And you, if you're watching a video like this, are in one of the ultra, and I'll use the term elite percentage of the population who actually wants to do more with their lives. I'm not talking about wishing. Everybody wishes, they set their New Year's resolution and do all that nonsense, but actually is taking some action. Watching this video while it's very little action is something. It is a sign that you want to do more, that you want to do better. Maybe the title got your interest, but you're still here and you're listening to this and watching this and you're coming across more information about how you can better yourself. And you're seeing that you can do more. You're seeing that you don't have to be limited. You don't have to bury your talent. You can go and take what God's given you and bring about increase. And God will bless the work of your hand. If you feel like you haven't been blessed, you haven't had an abundance in life, maybe it's because you haven't been producing. Maybe it's because you've been just sitting around and consuming. Oh, sure, you go to work, but are you really putting forth 100% effort at that? Are you really working in your work as if you did unto the Lord? Even if you have your own business, if you're an entrepreneur, are you really putting forth 100% effort? Are you really working in your business as if you're working unto the Lord? Most people would not be able to say yes to that. Change that today. Make your new approach to life being, I'm going to put forth my all. I'm going to give all that I can. I'm going to make the gift of life in general, productive. I'm not a useless eater. I'm not merely mindlessly consuming, but I'm producing and I'm adding value to the world, and the world is better because I was here. My friend, I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.